The keeper of broken things. His curse of memories. Chapter 1, The First Dawn. I wake to silk sheets that smell like winter storms and something wild I can't name. The ceiling above me is carved stone, painted with constellations I don't recognize. My heart hammers against my ribs because I don't know where I am, and the not knowing feels like drowning. Easy. The voice is deep, careful, like someone gentling a spooked horse. You're safe, Sage. I turn toward the sound and my breath catches. The man sitting in the chair beside the massive bed is beautiful in a way that seems almost cruel. Sharp cheekbones, eyes the color of storm clouds, dark hair that looks like he's been running his hands through it. But it's the exhaustion in his face that makes me want to reach out to him, even though I don't know why. Who are you? The words scrape out of my throat. Where am I? He doesn't flinch at the questions, though something flickers across his expression. Pain, maybe, or resignation. My name is Kael. You're in my home, in the Northern Territory. You've been here for... He pauses, and I catch the way his hands clench on the arms of his chair. For 87 days. That's impossible. I sit up too fast and the room spins. I don't remember. You can't remember. His voice is gentle but firm. You were injured, Sage. Your mind, it resets each night. Every morning, you wake up thinking it's the day after your accident. The words hit me like ice water. I stare at him, searching for signs that this is some elaborate joke or delusion, but his face is too serious, too sad for lies. What accident? You fell from a horse. Hit your head on a stone. The healers said. He stops, looks away. They said you'd never form new memories again. Each night's sleep would erase everything that happened after the injury. I want to deny it, but something deep in my chest recognizes the truth. There's a hollow feeling where memories should be, like a house with all the furniture removed. Why am I here? With you? Your family brought you to me. The bitterness in his voice is subtle but unmistakable. They thought I might be able to help. And can you? For a long moment, he just looks at me. Then he stands, and I realize how tall he is, how he moves with predatory grace. I don't know yet. But I'm trying. He crosses to a writing desk and returns with a leather journal, its pages thick with ink. You write to yourself, he says, offering it to me. Every night before you sleep. Read it. My hands shake as I open to the first page. The handwriting is mine, I know it like I know my own face, but the words feel foreign. Day 1, his name is Kael and he is not human. I can see it in the way he moves, the way shadows seem to bend around him. But his eyes. God, his eyes are so tired. He says he needs me, that I'm the only thing that keeps him anchored. I don't understand what that means, but I want to. There's something broken in him that calls to something broken in me. Trust him, Sage. I know it sounds insane, but trust him. I flip through more pages, watching my own handwriting change, becoming more confident, more familiar with this strange life. Day 15, he showed me the library today. Thousands of books in languages I've never seen. He speaks them all. When I asked how old he is, he just smiled and said, old enough. I'm starting to think he means it literally. Day 30, I dreamed of wolves last night. When I told him, his whole body went rigid. What kind of wolves? He asked. I couldn't describe it, something massive and silver and sad. He didn't speak for hours after that. Day 43, he kissed me today. I let him, even though I'd just met him that morning. It felt like coming home to a place I'd never been. My cheeks burn as I read that entry. I look up at Kael, who's watching me with an intensity that makes my skin prickle. We're involved? You could say that. His voice is carefully neutral. But I don't remember you. No. You never do. The pain in those 4 words is staggering. I set the journal down, my mind reeling. This must be torture for you. A laugh escapes him, but it's not a happy sound. You always say that. Usually around midday, when you start to believe this is real. What do you say back? That torture implies I don't choose it. He moves to the window, looking out at grounds I can't see from the bed. And I choose this, Sage. Every day, I choose you. Why? He's quiet for so long I wonder if he'll answer. When he finally speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper. Because you're the only peace I've ever known. Before I can ask what he means, there's a sharp knock at the door. Kael's entire posture changes, going from tired and gentle to something lethal in the space of a heartbeat. My lord. The voice through the door is urgent, afraid. The council has arrived. They're demanding an audience immediately. Kael's jaw clenches. Tell them I'll be down shortly. Sir, they're not alone. They've brought her. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. I watch Kael's hands curl into fists, and for just a moment, his shadow on the wall doesn't look quite human. Who's her? I ask. He turns back to me, and the look in his eyes makes my blood run cold. Someone who wants to take you away from me. Chapter 2, The Silver Queen. Get dressed, Kael says, his voice sharp with authority I haven't heard before. Quickly. I glance down at the silk nightgown I'm wearing and feel heat creep up my neck. I don't know where my clothes are. He strides to an ornate wardrobe and pulls out a dress the color of midnight, simple but elegant. When he brings it to me, I catch his scent again, wild and clean and something else, something that makes my pulse quicken. Can you? I gesture vaguely, and he immediately turns around. As I change, I sneak glances at him. The set of his shoulders, the way he holds his head, everything about him screams danger, but not to me. It's like standing next to a barely leashed wolf that's chosen to protect rather than hunt. Kael, I say as I smooth the dress over my hips, what aren't you telling me? Many things. He doesn't turn around. Are you ready? You can look. He does, and the way his gaze moves over me makes my skin tingle. There's heat there, and longing, and something so intense it should scare me. Instead, it makes me want to step closer. You're beautiful, he says simply. You probably tell me that every day. I do. And I mean it every time. Another knock interrupts us, more urgent now. My lord, please. The queen grows impatient. Queen. The word hits me like a physical blow. There's a queen. Are you married? Not to her. Kael's expression darkens. And if she has her way, not to anyone. He offers me his arm, and I take it, marveling at the strength I can feel beneath his sleeve. As we leave the room, I try to process the grandeur around us, tapestries that seem to move in the torchlight, armor that looks ancient and deadly, portraits of people with eyes that feel too knowing. Kael, what are you exactly? Does it matter? It might. We stop before massive double doors carved with wolves and stars. He turns to face me fully, and I see centuries in his eyes, literal centuries of joy and pain and loss. I'm a Lekan, he says quietly. The last king of my kind. And I'm cursed. Before I can ask with what, the doors swing open. The hall beyond takes my breath away, soaring ceilings, walls lined with weapons and banners, a fire pit in the center large enough to roast an entire stag. But it's the woman standing near the flames that makes me instinctively step closer to Kael. She's beautiful the way winter is beautiful, sharp and cold and potentially deadly. Silver white hair falls to her waist, and her skin has an otherworldly pallor. When she turns to look at us, her eyes are the pale blue of ice about to crack. "Kael," she says, and her voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. Still playing house with the broken human, I see. The insult hits like a slap, but Kael's grip on my arm tightens protectively. "Lysandra. You're not welcome in my territory. I go where the council sends me." She gestures to the three figures standing in the shadows behind her. I can't make out their faces, but something about them makes my skin crawl. "We're concerned about your stability." "My stability is not your concern. It is when it affects our people." Lysandra's gaze slides to me, and I feel pinned like a butterfly to a board. "This creature is making you weak, Kael. The reports we've received." "What reports?" One of the shadow figures steps forward, a tall man with scars covering half his face. "Border breaches. Rogue packs testing your defenses. You've been distracted. I've been managing my territory just fine. Have you?" Lysandra moves closer, and I notice her feet don't quite touch the ground. She's floating, just slightly, and the realization makes my heart race. "When was the last time you shifted, my king? When did you last run with your pack?" "I don't have a pack anymore." "You made sure of that." The venom in his voice is startling, and I see Lysandra's perfect composure crack just slightly. "The culling was necessary. The culling was genocide. And you know it. The bloodlust was spreading. We saved our people by eliminating the infected. You eliminated everyone I ever loved." The pain in those words is so raw I want to put my arms around him, but something tells me that would be the wrong move in front of these people. Instead, I squeeze his arm gently, and he glances down at me with something like surprise. "And now you cling to this human," Lysandra continues, "this broken thing that can't even remember your name. How pathetic the mighty have fallen." "Careful," Kael says, and there's something in his voice that makes everyone in the room go very still. "You're speaking about my mate." "Mate." The word hits me like lightning. I stare up at Kael, but he's focused entirely on Lysandra, who looks like she's just been slapped. "Your mate." She laughs, but it's not a pleasant sound. "You cannot mate with a human. The bond cannot hold without memory." "Yes, I know. Which is why we're going to fix her." The scarred man speaks up. "There is no fixing what she has. The mind doesn't work that way." "Then I'll find another way." "There is no other way." Lysandra's composure finally cracks completely, and for just a moment, something terrible flickers across her features, something with too many teeth. "Accept reality, Kael. Let her go, take a proper mate from among our people, and restore the bloodline before it's too late." "And if I refuse?" "Then the council will choose for you." The silence that follows is deafening. I can feel the tension building like pressure before a storm, and I know with sudden certainty that violence is about to erupt. "Get out," Kael says quietly. "Excuse me?" "Get out." The roar that tears from his throat isn't entirely human, and the shadows around him seem to writhe and grow. "Out of my home, out of my territory, and if any of you come back without invitation, I'll show you exactly why your ancestors feared the Lycan kings." For a moment, Lysandra looks genuinely afraid. Then her expression hardens into something cruel and calculating. "You have 3 days," she says. 3 days to come to your senses and choose properly. After that. She shrugs elegantly. Well. There are other ways to ensure the bloodline continues. With that chilling promise, she and her companions dissolve into shadows, leaving behind only the acrid smell of ozone and malice. I realize I'm shaking. Kael, what did she mean? Other ways? He doesn't answer immediately. When he finally looks at me, his face is a mask of rage and desperation. She means they'll kill you, he says simply. And then they'll force me to take a mate from their bloodlines. Chapter 3, The Weight of Memories. I should be terrified. A supernatural queen just threatened to kill me, and I'm apparently mated to a cursed Leakin king I can't remember. Instead, all I feel is a strange sense of rightness, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. That's why my family sold me to you, I say. It's not a question. Kael nods grimly. They knew what I was. Knew what you could do for me. The gold they received was just a bonus. What I could do for you, I repeat slowly. Because I can't form memories. Because your mind is quiet. He runs a hand through his dark hair, and I notice it's trembling slightly. Do you know what it's like to remember everything, Sage? Every face, every voice, every moment of pain stretching back 1,000 years? The memories don't fade, they pile up like sediment until you're drowning in the past. I try to imagine it and shudder. That's your curse. Part of it. The other part is that I'm immortal, so the memories just keep coming. He sits heavily in one of the massive chairs near the fire. But when you're with me, when you touch me, it stops. For the first time in centuries, I can just exist in the present moment. Because I have no past to drag you back to. Because you're always experiencing everything for the first time. Your wonder, your immediate responses, they anchor me to now instead of then. I move closer, drawn by the pain in his voice. How long have you been alone? The culling happened 200 years ago. Everyone I ever loved died in a single night. His hands clench on the chair arms. Lysandra convinced the council that a madness was spreading through our people, turning them violent and unpredictable. She called it bloodlust, but I know what it really was. What? Grief. They were grieving the loss of their humanity, the weight of immortality. Instead of helping them cope, the council decided to eliminate anyone showing symptoms. And you? A bitter smile twists his lips. I was showing symptoms too, but I was the king. They needed me functional, so they cursed me instead of killing me. Made sure I'd remember every single person who died, every detail of their final moments. A reminder of the price of madness. The cruelty of it takes my breath away. That's monstrous. It's politics. And now they want to finish what they started. He looks up at me, and I see desperation in his storm-gray eyes. I won't let them take you, Sage. I can't. Even though I'll never truly remember you. Especially because of that. He stands, and I see his hands are shaking now. Do you want to know why I really need you? It's not just the peace you bring. It's that every day, you choose to trust me without the weight of history between us. You see me as I am now, not as the king who failed his people, not as the man who couldn't save the ones he loved. Just me. I reach out without thinking and take his hand. His skin is warm, and the moment our fingers touch, I feel something shift inside me, not memory, exactly, but recognition. Like my soul knows him even if my mind doesn't. The journal, I say suddenly. You said I write in it every night. Show me more. He leads me to the writing desk and opens the journal to a section I hadn't read. My own handwriting stares back at me. Day 55. I asked him about his curse today. He tried to deflect, but I pressed. When he finally told me, I understood why he looks so tired all the time. He carries the weight of an entire civilization's trauma. I want to help him, but I don't know how. How do you heal someone whose wound is remembering too much when you're someone who can't remember anything at all? Day 61. We walked in the garden today. He told me about the flowers, how some of them only bloom at night. Like us, he said. I asked what he meant, and he said we both exist in stolen moments. Mine stolen from tomorrow, his stolen from yesterday. I think I'm falling in love with him. I think I fall in love with him every day. Day 73. He shifted for me today. I asked to see his true form, and after much hesitation, he agreed. God, sage, he's beautiful. Massive silver wolf with those same storm gray eyes. But when he changed back, he was shaking. I think it scares him, being what he is. I think he's afraid he'll hurt me. I look up from the journal to find Kael watching me intently. I asked to see you shift. You did. Several times, actually. You're surprisingly persistent. And was I afraid? You were amazed. You said I was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. A sad smile touches his lips. You said it like you meant it. I probably did. I flipped to the most recent entry. Day 86, something's coming. I can see it in the way the servants whisper in corners, the way Kael stares out the windows like he's expecting attack. He won't tell me what it is, but I know it involves me. I know because he holds me tighter now, kisses me like he's memorizing the feel of my lips. If something happens to me, if they take me away from him, I want him to know that these stolen days have been the happiest of any life I can remember. Even if that's not saying much. Tell him, Sage. When you wake up tomorrow, tell him what your heart knows even if your mind doesn't. My throat tightens. What does my heart know? Before he can answer, there's a commotion outside, shouts and the sound of running feet. Kael's head snaps toward the window, his body going rigid. They're early, he growls. Who? The advance guard. Lysandra left them behind. He grabs my hand and pulls me toward a tapestry on the far wall. Behind it is a hidden door. There's something I need to show you. Something that might change everything. Kael, what? The main doors explode inward, and armed figures in silver armor pour into the hall. Not human, I can tell by the way they move, too fast and too fluid. Seize the human, someone shouts. The queen wants her alive. Kael shoves me through the hidden door into darkness just as I hear the distinctive sound of bones cracking and reshaping. The last thing I see before he slams the door shut is the massive silver wolf from my journal entry launching itself at our attackers with a roar that shakes the very foundations of the castle. I'm alone in the dark, with the sounds of battle echoing through the stone, and all I can think is, I'm supposed to tell him what my heart knows. But what if I never get the chance? Chapter 4, The Memory Chamber. The hidden passage is pitch black and cold as a tomb. I feel my way forward with hands pressed against rough stone walls, trying not to think about the sounds of violence I left behind. The battle seems to be moving away from the Great Hall, but I can still hear crashes and inhuman roars echoing through the castle. Please be okay, I think, though I'm not sure if I'm praying to God or to whatever force brought me to this strange place. Please let Kael be okay. The passage opens into a circular chamber lit by crystals embedded in the walls. They pulse with soft blue light, casting dancing shadows that make the space feel alive. In the center of the room stands something impossible, a pool of liquid silver that reflects no light, smooth as a mirror and dark as night. But it's what surrounds the pool that makes me gasp. Hundreds of mirrors hang on the walls, each one showing a different scene. Not reflections, memories. I can see people I don't recognize, places that look both ancient and timeless. In one mirror, a younger Kael stands beside a woman with kind eyes and a crown of flowers. In another, he's running with a pack of wolves across moonlit hills. A third shows him kneeling beside graves, his face wet with tears. His memories, I whisper. Our memories, a voice corrects from behind me. I spin around to find an old woman sitting in the shadows. She's ancient, her hair white as mountain snow, but her eyes are sharp and knowing. She wears simple robes that seem to shimmer in the crystal light. Who are you? I am Vera, the keeper of the memory chamber. I have been waiting for you, sage. Waiting for me? But I don't understand. You understand more than you think. She stands with surprising grace and approaches the dark pool. This is where the curse was forged. Where the council bound Kael's memories so they could never fade or be forgotten. I stare at the pool, horrified. They tortured him here. They tried to break him here. But Kael is stronger than they anticipated. Instead of breaking, he learned to carry the weight of remembrance. She gestures to the mirrors. Every Leakin who died in the culling, every moment of their lives, he holds it all. That's impossible. No mind could contain that much. No human mind, perhaps. But Lycans are different. Our consciousness expands to hold what we must hold. The question is not whether he can carry the memories, but whether he should. What do you mean? Vera moves to one of the mirrors, and the scene shifts to show Kael as he is now, fighting desperately against silver-armored attackers in the Great Hall. He's magnificent and terrible, all claws and fangs and primal fury, but I can see he's outnumbered. The memories are killing him, she says simply. Not quickly, but steadily. Each day, the weight grows heavier. Each night, new details surface that he must catalog and preserve. He cannot let go, cannot forget, cannot heal. And I'm supposed to help him somehow. You already do. Your presence gives him moments of peace, allows him to exist in the present instead of drowning in the past. But it's not enough. Then what is? She turns to face me fully, and I see centuries of wisdom in her ancient features. The same thing that could heal you. The choice to let go. I don't understand. Your injury didn't just damage your ability to form new memories, child. It severed the connection between your conscious mind and your soul's memory. Deep down, in the place that matters most, you remember everything. Every lifetime, every love, every loss. But you can't access it. The words hit me like a physical blow. Every lifetime? Did you truly think it was chance that brought you here? That your family just happened to know of a Leakin king who needed exactly what you could provide? She laughs, but it's not unkind. Souls find each other across lifetimes, sage. You and Kael have been doing this dance for millennia. That's impossible. Look. She gestures to the pool, and its surface shimmers. Images form in the darkness, a medieval battlefield where a knight with Kael's eyes fights beside a woman with my face. A Victorian ballroom where we dance while the world burns outside. A modern city where we meet in a coffee shop and recognize each other instantly despite being strangers. We've lived before, I whisper. Many times. And in every lifetime, something has torn you apart. War, disease, politics, death, something always separates you before your bond can be completed. Completed? The mating bond between Lycans is not just physical or emotional. It's a joining of souls, a sharing of memory and consciousness. When it's complete, partners can access each other's memories, carry each other's burdens. Understanding crashes over me like a cold wave. That's why Lysandra is so afraid. If Kael and I complete the bond, he could share his memories with you, and you could help him carry the weight. More importantly, you could share your gift with him, your ability to exist fully in the present moment. Together, you would be unstoppable. But I can't remember. How can we bond if I forget everything each night? Memory isn't stored in the mind alone, child. It lives in the heart, in the soul, in the very essence of who you are. Your conscious mind may reset, but your soul remembers everything. She moves closer to the pool. The question is, are you willing to dive deep enough to find it? Before I can answer, the crystal lights flicker and dim. A tremor runs through the chamber, and dust falls from the ceiling. They've broken through the outer defenses, Vera says grimly. We're running out of time. What do I need to do? Enter the pool. Let it show you what your soul remembers. But be warned, once you see the truth of your past lives together, there's no going back. You'll carry that knowledge even when your mind resets. Another tremor, stronger this time. In the mirrors, I can see Kael being overwhelmed, silver chains wrapping around his wolf form as he struggles against impossible odds. He's losing, I breathe. Yes. And when they capture him, they'll bring him here. They'll force him to watch as they alter your memories permanently, make you forget not just each day but him entirely. Then they'll take you away and mate him to one of their chosen bloodlines. The cruelty of it makes me sick. Never. I won't let that happen. Then choose quickly, sage. Dive into the pool and reclaim what was always yours, or watch the man you love in every lifetime lose himself to despair. I look at the dark water, then at the mirrors showing our past lives together. In every reflection, I see the same love, the same desperate need to be together. In every reflection, I see failure. But this lifetime is different. This time, I have the power to remember. This time, I can choose to break the cycle. I take a step toward the pool. Chapter 5, The Dive into Memory. The liquid in the pool feels like touching starlight, cold and electric and alive. As I wade deeper, the crystal lights in the chamber grow brighter, responding to my presence. The mirrors on the walls begin to spin, showing flashes of 1,000 different lives, 1,000 different versions of Kael and me finding and losing each other. Don't fight it, Vera calls from the edge of the pool. Let the memories come. The moment the liquid touches my chest, the world explodes into sensation. I'm a Celtic priestess, and he's a warrior prince. We meet in a sacred grove where I'm gathering herbs for the tribe. His eyes are the same storm gray, but his hair is longer, wild. You're not afraid of me, he says, and it's wonder in his voice. Everyone fears the wolf prince. I touch his face gently. I fear the loneliness I see in your eyes. Nothing else. I'm a courtesan in Renaissance Italy, and he's a merchant who travels by night. We conduct our affair in secret chambers filled with candlelight and silk. Why do you never stay until dawn? I ask one night as he dresses to leave. Because I love you too much to let you see what I really am, he replies. But I already know. I've known since the first night, when I saw his shadow on the wall had too many teeth. I'm a nurse in World War I, and he's a soldier who won't die. We meet in a field hospital behind enemy lines. His wounds should be fatal, but they heal while I watch. What are you? I whisper as I clean blood from cuts that are already closing. Cursed, he says simply. But less cursed when you touch me. Life after life, century after century, the same pattern repeats. We find each other, fall desperately in love, and then lose each other to forces beyond our control. War, plague, family feuds, religious persecution. Something always tears us apart before we can complete the bond that would let us stay together forever. But in this life, something is different. I see myself as a child, falling from a horse, hitting my head on a stone. But now I can see what really happened. It wasn't an accident. A woman with silver white hair stands in the shadows of the forest, her hand glowing with unnatural light. Lysandra. She caused my injury, severed the connection between my conscious mind and my soul's memory. She's been manipulating events for decades, ensuring that when I finally found Kael again, I'd be broken in exactly the right way. She needed me to be his anchor without being his equal. Needed me to give him peace without giving him power. The revelation sends shockwaves through the liquid around me. The mirrors on the walls crack, and I hear Vera gasp from the edge of the pool. She's been planning this for lifetimes, I whisper. Yes, Vera confirms. Lysandra has her own agenda. She wants Kael weak, dependent, controllable. A puppet king who rules in name only while she pulls the strings. But why go to all this trouble? Why not just kill him? Because the Leakin people would never accept her as their sole ruler. She needs him alive and bonded to someone she can manipulate. In previous lifetimes, you were too strong, too independent. This time, she made sure you'd be the perfect broken toy. Rage fills me like molten steel. The liquid around me begins to boil, and the crystals in the walls pulse brighter. She doesn't know me very well, does she? Another tremor shakes the chamber, and in the spinning mirrors, I see Kael being dragged down a familiar corridor in chains. They're bringing him here, just as Vera predicted. Sage, Vera says urgently, you need to go deeper. The memories you're accessing now are just surface impressions. The real power lies at the bottom of the pool, where your soul's true nature is stored. I take a deep breath and dive. The descent feels endless. The liquid becomes thicker, more viscous, until I'm swimming through what feels like liquid time itself. And then, at the bottom of the pool, I find it. A sphere of pure light, pulsing with warmth and power. The moment I touch it, my consciousness explodes outward. I see the truth of what I am, what I've always been. Not just Kael's reincarnated love, but something more. A memory keeper, like Vera, but different. Where she preserves the past, I have the power to reshape it. Where Kael is cursed to remember everything, I have the gift of choosing what to remember and what to release. We're not just lovers across lifetimes, we're two halves of a cosmic balance. Memory and forgetting, past and present, burden and release. Together, we're meant to heal not just each other, but the wound that the culling tore in the fabric of Leakin society. But first, I have to remember how to access my power. The sphere pulses, and suddenly I can feel every iteration of myself across every lifetime, all their knowledge and strength flowing into me. I am the Celtic priestess who could speak to the spirits of the dead. I am the Renaissance courtesan who could manipulate memories with a touch. I am the World War I nurse who could take a dying man's pain into herself and transmute it to peace. I am all of them, and they are all me. I rise from the bottom of the pool like a shooting star, breaking the surface just as the chamber doors explode inward. Lysandra floats into the room, her silver hair whipping around her like a crown of ice. Behind her, her guards drag Kael in chains that burn his skin where they touch. Ah, the broken girl awakens, Lysandra says mockingly. Though I see you've been swimming in dangerous waters. No matter. What you think you remember will fade by morning. Will it? I step from the pool, and I'm not surprised to see that I'm completely dry. Power radiates from my skin like heat from a forge. I don't think so. For the first time, uncertainty flickers across Lysandra's perfect features. Impossible. The connection was severed. I severed it myself. You severed the connection to my conscious mind, I agree, walking slowly toward where they've chained Kael to the wall. His wolf form is magnificent even bound, silver fur matted with blood, storm-gray eyes fixed on mine with desperate hope. But you can't sever a soul's connection to itself. And my soul remembers everything. I reach out to touch the chains binding him, and they dissolve at my touch like mist. Kael shifts back to human form instantly, his naked body bearing wounds that are already healing. Sage, he breathes, and there's wonder in his voice. You remember. I remember all of it. Every lifetime, every loss, every moment we've searched for each other. I turn to face Lysandra, power crackling around me like visible lightning. And I remember you. What you did to us, life after life. Lysandra's composure finally cracks completely. Guards. Seize her. The armored figures move to obey, but I raise my hand and they freeze mid-step. I don't think so. Vera, would you care to explain to the Queen what she's really dealing with? The ancient keeper steps from the shadows, and I see something like fear in Lysandra's eyes for the first time. A memory keeper of the First Order, Vera says simply. The last of her kind, actually. The council thought they'd eliminated them all during the Great Purge. That's impossible, Lysandra snarls. The memory keepers were human. They couldn't reincarnate. Most couldn't, I agree, walking closer to her. With each step, my power grows stronger, fed by lifetimes of accumulated knowledge. But I was never fully human, was I? My mother's line carries traces of the original bloodline, the first lichens who could walk between worlds, who could touch the fabric of memory itself. You're lying. Am I? I reach out and touch her forehead before she can react. Instantly, her memories flood into me, centuries of manipulation, political maneuvering, the slow corruption of the Leakin Council. I see her orchestrating the events that led to the culling, convincing the other council members that the growing madness among their people was a disease rather than natural grief. I see her eliminating anyone who might challenge her authority, including the other memory keepers. But most importantly, I see her deepest fear, that Kael and I, bonded and whole, would be powerful enough to expose her crimes and unite the scattered Leakin clans against her rule. Interesting, I murmur, releasing her. She staggers backward, her perfect composure completely shattered. You killed hundreds of our people not to save them from madness, but to prevent them from remembering the truth about what you are. What is she? Kael asks, moving to stand beside me. I can feel his strength flowing into me, our incomplete bond already making us stronger together. She's not Leakin, I say simply. She's something else. Something that feeds on forgotten memories, grows stronger when people lose touch with their past. The culling wasn't about preventing madness, it was a feeding frenzy. Lysandra's form begins to shift, her beautiful facade melting away to reveal something ancient and hungry underneath. Her silver hair becomes writhing shadows, her pale skin takes on a sickly luminescence, and her eyes become empty voids that seem to devour light itself. A forgetter, Vera whispers in horror. I thought they were myth. Very real, Lysandra hisses, her voice now multi-toned and wrong. And very hungry. Do you know how long I've waited for this moment? How many lifetimes I've manipulated events to bring us to this point? Why? Kael demands. What do you want from us? Your memories, Wolf King. All of them. The collective history of the Leakin people, filtered through your perfect recall. And her power to reshape what is remembered and what is forgotten. The thing that was Lysandra rises into the air, shadows wrapping around her like wings. Together, you could rewrite the history of our people. Apart, you're just powerful enough to be useful. And if we refuse? Then I'll kill her, bind your memories in chains of silver and shadow, and use you as a puppet until your mind finally breaks under the weight of eternity. She smiles, and it's all teeth and hunger. Either way, I get what I want. The guards around us begin to move again, but they're different now. Their armor is melting, revealing creatures of shadow and spite beneath. Not Leakin at all, but extensions of Lysandra's will. Kael, I say quietly, not taking my eyes off the forgetter. Do you trust me? With my life. With my soul. Then take my hand. The moment our fingers touch, the incomplete bond between us flares to life. His memories flood into me, not the overwhelming torrent I expected, but a warm river of experiences that I can navigate at will. And I feel my power flowing into him, teaching him to exist fully in each moment instead of being dragged into the past. Together, we're exactly what Lysandra feared we'd become. Chapter 6, The Memory War. Power courses between us like lightning made of starlight and storm clouds. I feel Kael's consciousness merge with mine, his 1,000 years of memories suddenly accessible but no longer crushing. Instead, they become a vast library I can explore at will, taking only what I need and leaving the rest filed away safely. And I feel his amazement as my gift flows into him. For the first time in centuries, he exists purely in this moment, not dragged backward by the weight of the past or forward by anxiety about the future. Just here, now, complete. Impossible, Lysandra snarls, her shadow wings spreading wider. The bond requires a mating ceremony, blood and moon Anne. Your kind never understood, Vera interrupts, her ancient voice carrying new strength. The ceremony is just pageantry. True bonding happens when two souls recognize their perfect complement. And we've been recognizing each other for millennia, I add, power crackling around us in visible waves. Every lifetime, every separation, every reunion, it's all been building to this moment. Kael's hand tightens on mine. What do you need me to do? I smile at him, and for the first time since waking in his castle, I feel the full weight of our love, not just from this lifetime, but from all the others. Help me remember what she made us all forget. Together, we reach out with our joined consciousness, not just to the memories in this chamber, but to the collective memory of every Leakin who ever lived. The Forgetta recoils as if burned. Stop, she shrieks. You don't understand what you're doing. But I do understand. In Kael's memories, I see the truth about the time before the culling. The Leakin people weren't going mad, they were evolving. Learning to share memories across pact bonds, to heal trauma by distributing its weight among many instead of letting individuals bear it alone. They were becoming something beautiful and dangerous, a truly unified people who could learn from every mistake, remember every injustice, and never be manipulated by those who would rewrite history for their own ends. That's why you had to stop them, I say, directing my words to Lysandra even as I reach deeper into the memory banks. A people who truly remembered everything couldn't be controlled. They were becoming a hive mind. Losing their individuality. They were becoming family, Kael corrects, his voice rough with emotion as he accesses the same memories. Learning to carry each other's burdens, to share joy as well as pain. You destroyed that because you couldn't feed on a people who supported each other. The shadow creatures around us begin to advance, but I'm ready for them. I reach out with my power and touch the core memory that animates each one, the moment they chose to serve the Forgetter instead of fighting for their people's freedom. Remember who you were, I whisper, and the power flows out of me like a benediction. One by one, the shadow creatures stop, their stolen forms melting away to reveal lichens beneath, but not the enemies we expected. These are survivors of the culling, people who were captured and corrupted rather than killed, their memories twisted until they forgot their own names. "My king," one of them gasps, falling to his knees before Kael. "Forgive me, she made me forget." "There's nothing to forgive, Marcus," Kael says gently, and I feel his recognition of an old friend ripple through our bond. "You're free now." More lichens are remembering themselves, the forgetters hold over them breaking as I restore their true memories. Lyssandra's perfect features contort with rage. "Enough. If I can't have your cooperation, I'll take your power by force." She lunges toward us, shadows trailing behind her like liquid darkness. But I'm ready for her. I've been preparing for this confrontation across multiple lifetimes, even if I didn't know it. I step forward to meet her attack, and as her claws rake across my skin, I grab her wrists and pour every memory I've ever carried directly into her consciousness. The effect is instantaneous and devastating. A forgetter's power comes from devouring memories, leaving emptiness behind. But I'm not giving her memories to consume, I'm giving her memories to carry, the way Kael has carried the weight of his people's history. Every life I've lived, every love I've experienced, every moment of joy and wonder and hope floods into her all at once. For a creature that feeds on emptiness and despair, the sudden influx of pure human experience is like poison. She screams, a sound like reality tearing, and staggers backward. Where my hands touched her, silver light spreads across her shadow form like infection. What are you doing to me?" "Teaching you to remember what you chose to forget," I say sadly. "You were Lichen once, Lysandra. Before the hunger consumed you, before you became something that fed on others' pain. You had a mate, children, a pack that loved you. You threw it all away for power." The silver light reaches her heart, and suddenly her true form is revealed, not the monster she became, but the woman she once was. Beautiful still, but broken, hollow-eyed with centuries of self-imposed exile from everything that made life worth living. "I remember," she whispers, tears streaming down her face. "Oh gods, I remember what I lost. What I destroyed." "You can't undo what's been done," Kael says, but his voice holds compassion rather than condemnation. "But you can choose differently now." "The council," she gasps. "They're coming." I was just the advance force. They have weapons, silver nets that can bind even memory keepers. They won't make the same mistakes I did. "How long do we have?" I ask. "Hours. Maybe less." She looks around the chamber, at the freed lichens who are remembering their names and their purpose. There are maybe 30 survivors here. The council is bringing hundreds. Then we need to level the playing field. I turn to Vera, who has been watching the confrontation with growing amazement. "The memory pool, can it be used to restore memories to others? Beyond just these few? What are you thinking?" Vera asks. "Every lichen who died in the culling, their memories are preserved here, aren't they? In the mirrors, in the pool itself?" "Yes, but..." "Then we don't fight the council with 30 survivors," I say, feeling the plan crystallize in my mind. "We fight them with every lichen who ever lived." Chapter 7, Army of Memory. "That's impossible," Vera breathes, but I can see the hope kindling in her ancient eyes. "The dead are dead, sage. I can preserve their memories, but I cannot restore their lives." "Not their lives," I agree, moving to the edge of the dark pool. "But their knowledge, their skills, their will to fight, all of that lives on in memory. And memory, when properly wielded, can reshape reality." Kael's understanding flows through our bond before he even speaks. "You want to channel them. Let the survivors carry their memories, their abilities. More than that." I kneel beside the pool, pressing both palms against its mirror-dark surface. I want to give every person in this chamber access to the collective knowledge of our entire people. Every fighting technique ever mastered, every strategic insight ever gained, every spell ever cast, all of it, available to all of us. The human mind can't contain that much information, one of the freed lichens protests. It would drive us mad. The human mind, no. But we're not fully human anymore, are we? I look around at the gathered survivors, seeing them truly for the first time. Each one bears the mark of their ordeal, eyes that have seen too much, souls stretched thin by years of forced servitude to the forgetter. But they're still here. Still fighting. We're what our people were meant to become. The next evolution, interrupted by fear and politics and hunger for control. Lysandra, still glowing with the silver light of restored memories, struggles to her feet. It's not just impossible, it's dangerous. That much collective memory could reshape not just consciousness but reality itself. You could unmake the world as we know it. Good, Kael says grimly. The world as we know it allowed genocide to be committed against our people and called it mercy. Maybe it's time for something new. I feel his certainty through our bond, his absolute faith in my abilities. It should be overwhelming, but instead it gives me strength. Will you help me? I ask the room at large. All of you? Even knowing the risk? The response is immediate and unanimous, not spoken, but felt. The psychic weight of 30-odd minds all focused on the same purpose, all willing to sacrifice everything for the chance to avenge their people and save their future. Then let's begin. I plunge my consciousness into the pool, but this time I don't go alone. Kael dives with me, his presence steady and warm beside mine in the liquid memory. One by one, the other survivors join us, their minds linking with ours in an expanding web of shared awareness. The effect is extraordinary. Instead of drowning in the vast ocean of collective memory, we become the ocean. Each consciousness maintains its individuality while gaining access to the whole. I am still Sage, but I am also Vera's mentor from 3 centuries ago, a memory keeper who could weave reality from pure thought. I am a warrior poet from the ancient days who fought with silver fire. I am a healer who could mend not just bodies but souls. And I am all of them at once, their knowledge and power flowing through me like music made manifest. Around the chamber, the mirrors begin to glow more brightly. The dead are not restored to life, but their essence, their accumulated wisdom, flows into the living. I see Marcus, the freed guard, straighten as he gains access to the memories of legendary warriors. His eyes glow with silver fire, and when he moves, it's with the fluid grace of a dozen master fighters. Vera gasps as she connects not just with her own abilities, but with those of every memory keeper who came before her. The air around her shimmers with power, reality bending to accommodate her newfound strength. Even Lysandra is transformed. The memories I forced her to confront don't just restore her original nature, they connect her to every moment of love and joy she destroyed, every life she could have saved. The guilt would drive a lesser being mad, but she's strong enough to bear it, to let it transform her hunger for power into hunger for redemption. The council approaches, she says, her voice carrying new depths of authority. I can feel them testing the castle's outer defenses. Good, I say, rising from the pool. The liquid memory clings to my skin like starlight, and I know that even when this is over, I'll carry this connection with me always. Let them come. We emerge from the chamber not as desperate survivors but as something unprecedented in the history of our people, living vessels for the collective wisdom of an entire civilization. The castle corridors echo with our footsteps, but also with the phantom footsteps of thousands who died too soon, who left their mark on the world through us. In the great hall, we take our positions. The massive space seems almost small now, containing as it does the spiritual presence of so many. I stand beside the fire pit with Kael at my side, our bond humming with shared power. Vera positions herself near the ancient weapons on the walls, not to fight with them, but to awaken them with memories of every battle they've seen. The others spread out in formation that no military academy ever taught, but which feels perfectly natural when drawn from the tactical knowledge of 100 generals across 1,000 years of warfare. They're here, Marcus announces, though we all feel it at the same moment, a cold pressure against the castle walls as the council's forces surround us. The great doors explode inward, but instead of the dramatic entrance we expected, what comes through is a wave of silver mist that spreads across the floor like fog. Where it touches stone, the rock begins to crack and blacken. Forget gas, Lysandra warns. It will strip your memories if you breathe it in. Not anymore, I say calmly. I reach out with the collective power we've gathered and touch the advancing mist with pure memory made manifest. Instead of destroying our recollections, the gas becomes a conduit for them. Every molecule carries the story of our people, their joys and sorrows and dreams. The council members who follow the mist into the hall stop short as they're suddenly overwhelmed with visions of what they destroyed. I see recognition and horror dawn on their faces as they remember not the propaganda version of the culling, but the truth: families torn apart, children murdered in their beds, an entire way of life obliterated because it threatened their control. Some of them fall to their knees, weeping. Others rage and fight against the visions, but they can't escape them. Memory, once properly awakened, is stronger than any force in the universe. But not all of them are overcome. The strongest, the most corrupted by centuries of wielding absolute power, push through the memory storm with their minds intact. Enough. The voice booms through the hall, and I see him, the first counselor, ancient even by Leakin standards, his form crackling with stolen power. You think parlor tricks will save you? We have ruled for millennia. We are the law. You were the law, Kael corrects, stepping forward. Power ripples around him like heat waves, and for a moment his shadow on the wall looks less like a man and more like something primordial and terrible. Now you're just criminals facing judgment. The battle that follows isn't fought with claws and fangs, though those come into play. It's fought with competing versions of reality, with memories wielded like weapons, with the fundamental nature of what it means to be Leakin hanging in the balance. But we have something they don't: the willing cooperation of our people's entire history. Every dirty trick they try has been tried before, and we have the memories of how to counter it. Every spell they cast is met with older magic, refined by generations of practice. The fight is brutal but brief. How can you defeat an enemy who remembers every mistake you've ever made, every weakness you've ever shown? How can you manipulate people who have access to the complete, unedited truth of their history? When the silver dust settles, the council lies broken, not dead, but stripped of their stolen power and forced to confront the weight of their crimes. Some beg for mercy. Others simply stare at the ceiling in shock, their minds overwhelmed by the sudden restoration of their original compassionate nature. What now? Marcus asks, surveying the defeated council members. I look around the great hall, at the survivors who are no longer just survivors but the living embodiment of our people's legacy. At Vera, whose ancient eyes sparkle with the joy of seeing justice finally served. At Lysandra, who stands among us not as enemy but as the first to choose redemption over revenge. And at Kael, whose hand in mine anchors me to this moment, this victory, this new beginning. Now, I say, we rebuild. Not the world that was, but the world that should have been. The world our people were trying to create before they were stopped. Chapter 8, The New Dawn. 6 months after the battle in the Great Hall, I wake not to confusion and fear, but to sunlight streaming through windows I recognize. Kael's arm is wrapped around my waist, his breathing deep and even beside me. For the first time in this lifetime, I wake knowing exactly where I am and how I got here. The bond between us didn't just restore my ability to form new memories, it gave me access to all my memories, across all lifetimes. I remember being the Celtic priestess, the Renaissance courtesan, the World War I nurse. I remember every version of myself that loved every version of him. But more importantly, I remember yesterday. And the day before that. And every day since we pooled our consciousness with the collective memory of our people and changed the very nature of what it means to be Leakin. Good morning, beautiful, Kael murmurs against my neck, and I can feel his smile. Still remember me? Always, I promise, turning in his arms to face him. His storm-gray eyes are clear and present, no longer haunted by the crushing weight of unwanted memories. How did you sleep? Peacefully. For the first time in 2 centuries. He traces patterns on my bare shoulder with gentle fingers. I dreamed of the future instead of the past. Good dreams? The best. Want to see what today brings? We dress and make our way to the Great Hall, which has been transformed from a place of battle into the heart of something unprecedented, a true democracy of memory. The space hums with quiet activity as representatives from Leakin communities around the world gather to share their experiences and plan for the future. The system we developed is elegantly simple. Any major decision affecting our people is made not by a ruling council, but by temporarily linking the consciousness of volunteer representatives so they can experience the full impact of potential choices. It's impossible to vote for war when you carry the memories of every person who will die in it. It's impossible to choose oppression when you feel the suffering it causes. The integration is proceeding faster than we hoped, Vera reports, approaching us with a tablet full of data. She looks decades younger than she did 6 months ago, her purpose renewed by the opportunity to help heal our people rather than just preserve their memories. Communities that were isolated for centuries are reconnecting. The knowledge-sharing networks are accelerating technological and magical advancement exponentially. And the resistance? I ask. Minimal. Turns out most Lycans actually prefer cooperation to competition when given the choice. She grins. Who could have predicted that? Lysandra appears at my elbow, moving with the silent grace she's retained despite her transformation from forgetter back to her original nature. She's become my closest advisor in matters of memory manipulation, her centuries of experience invaluable in helping newly awakened Lycans process their expanded consciousness. The council members are asking for another audience, she says quietly. They want to contribute to the reconstruction efforts. All of them? Most. The first counselor is struggling with the transition. The weight of his crimes isn't easy to bear, even with support. I nod. We've learned that justice isn't just about punishment, it's about giving people the opportunity to make amends, to become better than they were. Some of the former council members have embraced this chance for redemption. Others are still fighting the reality of what they've done. Schedule the meeting for this afternoon, I decide. But make sure they understand, they participate as equals, not as rulers. Those days are over. A commotion near the main entrance draws our attention. Marcus and a team of scouts have returned from their latest expedition, but they're not alone. Behind them walks a group of people I don't recognize, Lycans, but different somehow. Their clothing is unfamiliar, their scent carrying traces of places I've never been. Report, Kael calls, his voice carrying the easy authority of someone who leads by choice rather than birthright. My king, Marcus begins, then catches himself. We've largely abandoned the old titles, though habits die hard. Kael. These are representatives from the Southern Territories. They've been in hiding since the culling, maintaining their own communities. We heard about the awakening, one of the newcomers says, stepping forward. She's elderly, her hair silver white but her eyes sharp with intelligence. Felt it, really. The sudden expansion of the memory network. We've come to see if the stories are true. Which stories? I ask. That someone finally overthrew the council. That the memory keepers have returned. That there's a place where our people can be whole again. She looks around the great hall, taking in the busy activity, the sense of purpose and hope that permeates the space. That someone remembered how to build rather than just survive. The stories are true, Kael confirms. Though we prefer to think of it as our people overthrowing the council. This was never about individual heroics. Good answer. The woman smiles, and I see centuries of caution finally beginning to ease. I'm Elena, speaker for the Southern Territories. We represent about 2,000 Lycans who have been, let's call it, skeptical of authority figures. Understandably so, I say. Would you like to experience what we've built here? See if it's something your communities might want to be part of? You'd let us link consciousnesses? Even though you don't know us? That's how trust works, Vera interjects. You can't build it from a distance. Elena considers this, then nods slowly. Very well. But just a light connection at first. We've learned to be careful about opening our minds to strangers. The integration process takes most of the morning. Elena and her people don't just experience our memories of the past 6 months, they feel our emotions, our hopes and fears and dreams for the future. And we experience theirs, the daily struggle to maintain their communities in secret, the constant vigilance against discovery, the slow erosion of hope as generations passed without change. By the time we separate, there are tears on many faces, but they're tears of relief and joy rather than sorrow. It's real, Elena breathes. You've actually done it. Created a society based on understanding rather than control. We've made a start, I correct. There's still so much work to do. Communities to reconnect, knowledge to preserve and share, new ways of living to develop. We could use help from people who've spent centuries learning to be self-sufficient. You'll have it. Elena's voice carries the weight of absolute commitment. My people have been waiting for this day longer than you know. As the formal discussions continue around us, I step outside onto the castle's battlements with Kael. The view from here has changed dramatically over the past months. Where once there were empty fields and abandoned villages, now there are signs of renewed life, gardens being planted, buildings being restored, children playing in courtyards. Any regrets? Kael asks, leaning against the stone parapet. About what? Choosing this path. It would have been easier to just complete our bond and disappear somewhere together. Live out this lifetime in peace, away from all the politics and responsibility. I consider the question seriously, then shake my head. No regrets. This is what we were meant to do, across all those lifetimes. Not just find each other, but help our people find themselves. Even though it means you'll always be sharing your consciousness with thousands of others. Never again having truly private thoughts. The privacy is there when I want it, I assure him. But mostly, I don't want it. The connection, the sense of belonging to something larger than myself, it's what was missing in every lifetime before this one. He pulls me closer, and I lean into his warmth. I love you, he says simply. I know. I love you too. All of you, the king, the warrior, the man who chose hope over despair even when hope seemed impossible. What happens now? I look out over the thriving valley, at the evidence of our people's resilience and capacity for growth. In the distance, I can see a group of young Lycans practicing the new forms of combat that blend physical techniques with memory manipulation. Near the river, engineers are working on designs for cities that can accommodate both our technological needs and our spiritual connection to the natural world. Now we build the future our people always dreamed of, I say. One memory, one choice, one day at a time. Chapter 9, Expanding Horizons. 3 years have passed since the awakening, and the world has changed in ways none of us could have predicted. The great hall that once echoed with the sounds of battle now hosts delegations from supernatural communities across the globe, vampires seeking to understand our memory-sharing techniques, Fey courts curious about our new form of governance, human governments trying to figure out how to interact with what they're calling the Lycan Renaissance. I stand before a gathering that would have been impossible just a few years ago, representatives from every known supernatural species, along with carefully selected human leaders who've proven they can handle the truth about the world's hidden populations. The question before us today, I address the assembly, my voice carrying easily through the space thanks to minor acoustical enhancements we've developed, is whether the model we've created here can be adapted for broader use. Whether memory sharing and consciousness linking can help bridge the gaps between our different peoples. With respect, interrupts Counselor Zhang, a vampire elder whose pale skin seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. What works for Lycans may not work for other species. Our minds operate on fundamentally different principles. Do they? I gesture to Vera, who's been working with researchers from multiple species for the past year. Vera? The ancient memory keeper steps forward, her appearance transformed once again. The past years of working with expanded consciousness have given her an almost luminous quality, as if she's becoming more idea than physical form. Our research suggests otherwise, she begins, her voice carrying harmonics that seem to resonate in multiple dimensions. Consciousness, at its core, operates on the same fundamental principles regardless of species. The differences lie in processing speed, storage capacity, and access methods, not in basic structure. You've tested this theory, asks Empress Moira of the Winter Court, her words crystallizing in the air as she speaks. Extensively. Vera activates a projection showing complex diagrams and data streams. With volunteers from 17 different species, we've successfully established temporary consciousness bridges. The vampire volunteers found they could share not just memories but also sensory experiences. Imagine being able to taste sunlight through a shapeshifter's perspective, or feel the flow of time as an immortal experiences it. The room erupts in interested murmurs. President Martinez, one of the few humans present, leans forward in her chair. The applications for conflict resolution alone would be revolutionary. It's hard to maintain prejudice against someone whose experiences you've literally shared. There are risks, I acknowledge, because honesty has become the foundation of everything we build. Consciousness linking can be addictive. Some individuals become so enamored with experiencing life through other perspectives that they neglect their own existence. We've developed safeguards, but they're not foolproof. And there's the question of privacy, adds Dr. Sarah Chen, our lead researcher in cross-species psychology. She's human, but has been part of our community long enough to have undergone limited memory enhancement procedures. Not everyone wants their thoughts potentially accessible to others, even temporarily. Which is why participation would always be voluntary. Kael interjects from his position beside me. Over the years, he's grown into his role as both my partner and the de facto leader of our people. The crushing weight of unwanted memories has been replaced by the freely chosen responsibility of helping shape our future. No one would be forced to link consciousness or share memories. But for those who choose to, the benefits could be extraordinary. Counselor Zhang steeples his fingers, a gesture that looks strange given his elongated, claw-like nails. What about the practical applications? How would this work on a global scale? We envision a network, I explain, activating another projection that shows a web of connections spreading across a world map. Voluntary consciousness nodes in major population centers, staffed by trained facilitators from multiple species. Individuals could access the network for everything from conflict resolution to education to pure experiential exploration. A global empathy network, breathes Dr. Chen. It could change everything, not just how different species interact, but how we solve problems, share knowledge, advance as civilizations. Or it could be the most dangerous surveillance system ever created, counters General Harrison, another of the human representatives. His military background makes him naturally suspicious of anything that could compromise operational security. What's to stop authoritarian governments from forcing their citizens to link? What about industrial espionage, military intelligence, personal blackmail? The same thing that stops those abuses in our current system, I reply. Strong ethical frameworks, robust oversight, and the fact that the technology itself makes deception nearly impossible. You can't lie when someone is experiencing your memories directly. Unless you've learned to manipulate your own memories, Lysandra points out from her position near the back of the room. Her transformation from forgetter to reformer has made her our expert on the darker applications of memory manipulation. Which is possible, given sufficient skill and motivation. True, I acknowledge. Which is why we propose starting small, pilot programs in communities that specifically request them, with extensive monitoring and evaluation. No forced implementation, no mandatory participation, just the opportunity for those who want to try a different way of interacting with the world. Empress Moira speaks again, her words now forming visible ice crystals that drift to the floor. The Winter Court would be willing to host a pilot program. Our seasonal territories have long struggled with communication barriers between our different seasonal aspects. If consciousness linking could help Summer and Winter Fae understand each other's perspectives, it could end the seasonal wars, completes Lord Bramble of the Summer Court, his voice carrying the warmth of a perfect June day. My people have been fighting yours for millennia over resources and territory that we could easily share if we truly understood each other's needs. President Martinez nods thoughtfully. The European Union has expressed interest as well. They're dealing with a resurgence of nationalism and xenophobia that traditional diplomacy hasn't been able to address. If people could literally experience what it's like to be a refugee, or to live as a minority in a hostile environment. The applications are endless, Dr. Chen agrees. But we need to be careful about implementation. Move too fast, and we risk backlash from those who see this as mind control or violation of personal autonomy. Which brings us to the most important question, I say, looking around the assembly. Are we ready to take this step as a global community? Not just the supernatural world, but humanity as a whole? The silence that follows is pregnant with possibility and uncertainty. These beings represent civilizations that have existed in isolation or conflict for millennia, species that have viewed each other as threats or resources rather than potential partners. Finally, Counselor Zhang speaks. There would need to be extensive safeguards. Protocols for consent, limits on the depth of connection, ways to prevent the network from being weaponized. Agreed, I say. We've been developing those protocols for 3 years. We're prepared to share everything we've learned, not just the successes, but the failures and dangers as well. And leadership, asks General Harrison. Who would oversee this network? What's to prevent it from being co-opted by any one group or species? Rotating leadership, Kael suggests. Representatives from each participating community, with decisions made through consensus rather than authority. The same democratic principles we use here, scaled up. It would be the largest collaborative effort in recorded history, President Martinez observes. The logistics alone would be handled by the network itself, Vera interjects. Once established, the consciousness-sharing protocols would allow for near-instantaneous coordination across any distance. Communication barriers disappear when thoughts can be shared directly. Lord Bramble leans forward, his summer-bright eyes intense with interest. When could we begin the pilot programs? The infrastructure could be ready within 6 months, I reply. But only if we have genuine commitment from the participating communities. This isn't something we can do halfway. Either we're building a new model for interspecies cooperation, or we're creating the most dangerous weapon in history. And if it fails? Asks Empress Moira. If the pilot programs reveal fundamental flaws in the concept? Then we learn from those failures and try something else, Kael says simply. The alternative, continuing the cycle of isolation and conflict that has defined relations between our peoples for centuries, isn't acceptable anymore. I feel a surge of pride through our bond. This is the man I fell in love with across a dozen lifetimes, not just for his strength or his compassion, but for his unwavering commitment to growth and change. I propose we put it to a vote, I announce. Not a binding decision, but a statement of intent. Who among you is willing to commit to exploring this possibility? To working together to build something unprecedented? The voting process takes hours, as each representative consults with their home communities through various magical and technological means. But eventually, the results are clear: unanimous agreement to proceed with pilot programs, with the understanding that any community can withdraw at any time if the process proves harmful. As the assembly disperses, I find myself on the battlements again with Kael, watching the sun set over a world that's about to change in ways none of us can fully predict. Second thoughts, he asks, echoing his question from years ago. Hundreds of them, I admit. But that's not the same as doubt. We're about to unleash something that could transform civilization itself. Of course I'm nervous. The memory keepers of old would be proud, he says, pulling me close. You're not just preserving the past anymore, you're actively shaping the future. We are, I correct. This was never about individual achievement, remember? How could I forget? You only remind me every day. His smile takes the sting out of the words. Though I have to say, the woman who couldn't remember my name 3 years ago has come a long way. That woman was always me, I say seriously. Just, incomplete. All those lifetimes we spent searching for each other, we were really searching for this, the chance to be whole together, to use our combined strengths for something bigger than our own happiness. And if it all goes wrong? If consciousness linking leads to chaos instead of cooperation? I consider the question, then shrug. Then we'll figure out how to fix it. Together. With the help of everyone who's willing to try. A new commotion in the courtyard below draws our attention. A group of young lichens, children who've grown up in our expanded consciousness network, are demonstrating something to a mixed audience of fae, vampires, and humans. As we watch, they link hands and their combined consciousness reaches out to influence the physical world around them, causing flowers to bloom in perfect geometric patterns. The next generation doesn't see the barriers we grew up with, Kael observes. To them, consciousness sharing across species lines isn't revolutionary, it's just Tuesday. Which means we're on the right track, I say. Change always looks impossible to the generation that has to make it happen, but inevitable to the ones who grow up with the results. Chapter 10, The Children of Two Worlds. 5 years after the Global Consciousness Network launched, I'm standing in what was once the Great Hall but is now something unprecedented, a fully integrated community space where the boundaries between species, between individual minds, and even between physical and metaphysical reality have become beautifully fluid. The young lichens we watched from the battlements have grown into teenagers, and they're not alone. Children from every species that joined the network have developed abilities that make their parents look like relics from a simpler age. They call themselves the Linked, a generation that doesn't see consciousness as individual property but as a shared resource to be used collectively. Mom, look at this, calls Arya, a 12-year-old whose parents are both vampires but whose abilities extend far beyond traditional vampiric powers. She's standing in the center of the hall with 5 other children, a young fae, 2 human siblings, a shapeshifter cub, and Elena's grandson Marcus. They join hands, and immediately the air around them begins to shimmer. But it's not magic in any traditional sense. They're using consciousness linking to directly interface with reality's underlying structure, reshaping probability and causality through pure collaborative will. Where they stand, a tree begins to grow, not slowly, as trees normally do, but in fast forward, its roots extending deep into the stone floor while its branches reach toward the vaulted ceiling. But this isn't just any tree. Its leaves are made of crystallized memory, each one containing the preserved experiences of the children's ancestors. Its bark pulses with bioluminescent patterns that represent the flow of shared consciousness through the global network. They're creating a living memory archive, breathes Dr. Chen, who's been studying the link for the past 2 years. Using their combined consciousness to give physical form to abstract concepts. Is it permanent? Asks Vera, her ancient eyes bright with wonder. Even she, with centuries of experience in memory manipulation, has never seen anything like this. We don't know yet, I admit, watching as more children join the circle. The tree continues to grow, its canopy now spreading wide enough to shelter half the hall. Everything about the linked is uncharted territory. Kael approaches from the other side of the hall, where he's been meeting with representatives from the newest pilot programs. The reports from Luna City are in, he says quietly. The human-vampire integration project is exceeding all projections. Crime rates have dropped by 60%, cross-species marriages are up 300%, and they've developed technology that shouldn't be possible for another century. Problems? The usual concerns about loss of individual identity, but the psychological support systems seem to be handling it. More concerning are the reports of what they're calling consciousness drift, individuals becoming so integrated with the network that they lose track of where their own thoughts end and others begin. I nod grimly. It's a problem we've been tracking across multiple pilot sites. The benefits of consciousness sharing are undeniable, but the risks are becoming clearer as well. Some individuals become addicted to the expanded awareness, neglecting their physical bodies and individual responsibilities. Others lose themselves entirely, their personalities dissolving into the collective until they become little more than conduits for the network. Solutions? I ask. The children are working on it, he says, gesturing to the growing crowd around the memory tree. They claim the problem is that adults approach consciousness sharing as an addition to their existing identity, rather than a natural evolution of it. They're developing what they call identity anchors, techniques for maintaining individual selfhood while fully participating in collective consciousness. As if summoned by our conversation, Arya detaches herself from the group and approaches us. But she doesn't walk, she glides, her feet barely touching the ground, her form flickering occasionally as if she's not entirely solid. We heard you talking about consciousness drift, she says, and her voice carries harmonics that suggest she's speaking not just as herself but as a representative of all the linked children. We've figured out how to fix it. Fix it how? I ask gently. Despite her extraordinary abilities, Arya is still a child, and I've learned to balance respect for her capabilities with appropriate caution. By teaching people how to be themselves more completely, not less, she replies. Adults think sharing consciousness means giving up who they are. But it's the opposite. The more fully you know yourself, the more you can share without losing yourself. She extends her hand toward me, and I feel the familiar tingle that indicates an offered consciousness link. But this is different from anything I've experienced before. Instead of the gradual merging I'm used to, there's an instant, crystalline clarity. I can feel Arya's thoughts and emotions, but they're distinctly hers, clearly delineated from my own awareness. Through her perspective, I suddenly understand what the children have been learning through trial and error. The key to stable consciousness sharing isn't protecting your individual identity from contamination by others. It's developing such a strong, clear sense of who you are that you can touch other minds without being changed by them unless you choose to be. It's like learning to swim, explains Marcus, Elena's grandson, as he joins our conversation. Adults are afraid of drowning, so they cling to the side of the pool. But if you really know how to swim, you can dive as deep as you want and still surface safely. The tree, I realize, looking back at the growing memory archive. It's not just art. You're creating a training tool. Each leaf contains a perfectly preserved individual identity, Arya confirms. People who are struggling with consciousness drift can touch the leaves and experience what it feels like to be completely yourself while still being connected to others. Kael stares at the children with something approaching awe. You've solved in 5 years what we've been struggling with since the network began. We didn't have to unlearn anything, Marcus points out pragmatically. You adults had to overcome lifetimes of thinking consciousness was private property. We grew up knowing it was meant to be shared. A commotion near the main entrance interrupts our conversation. A group of officials I don't recognize are arguing with our security team, not aggressively, but with the intensity of people who believe they're dealing with an emergency. What's happening? I ask, extending my awareness through the local network to get multiple perspectives on the situation. The answer comes not from the security team, but from Lysandra, who's been monitoring global communications as part of her role as our early warning system. Government officials from the North American Federation, she reports through the network. They're demanding immediate access to you and Kael. Something about uncontrolled supernatural development and threats to human sovereignty. Let them in, I decide. But make sure the children are safe first. As if they heard me despite being across the hall, the linked children begin moving toward the memory tree. They don't run or show panic, they simply fade, becoming translucent and then invisible as they shift their consciousness into a state that exists parallel to physical reality. That's new, Kael observes. They've been practicing, Dr. Chin explains. They call it stepping sideways, moving their consciousness into adjacent probability states where they can observe without being observed. The officials enter the hall with the aggressive confidence of people accustomed to being the most powerful individuals in any room. There are 5 of them, all human, all wearing the kind of expensive suits that suggest government authority. Their leader, a middle-aged woman with steel-gray hair and cold eyes, approaches us directly. Ms. Sage, Mr. Kael, she begins formally. I'm Director Sarah Hawthorne, North American Federation Department of Supernatural Affairs. We need to discuss the immediate suspension of your consciousness sharing programs. Good afternoon to you too, I reply mildly. And why would we need to do that? Because your linked children have been detected interfacing with global communications networks, financial systems, and defense installations. They're treating the entire planet's digital infrastructure as their personal playground. That's not accurate, Kael states firmly. Our children don't hack systems in the traditional sense. They're reshaping reality at the quantum level, Director Hawthorne interrupts. Do you have any idea what kind of chaos that could cause? Stock markets fluctuating based on a child's mood? Nuclear weapons systems responding to telepathic signals? The potential for catastrophic failure has been extensively studied and prepared for, I finish calmly. Director Hawthorne, I appreciate your concerns, but they're based on fundamental misunderstandings of how consciousness linking actually works. Then explain it to me, she demands. In terms that don't require a PhD in theoretical metaphysics. Before I can answer, the air in the hall shifts subtly. The linked children step back into visible reality, but they bring something with them, a presence, vast and warm and utterly benevolent, that fills the space like sunlight. We'll explain, Arya says, her voice now carrying depths of wisdom that seem impossible in someone so young. But first, you need to understand what we really are. Chapter 11, The Revelation. The presence the children brought with them isn't separate from them, it is them, I realize with growing amazement. What we thought were individual children learning to share consciousness are actually facets of something much larger and more magnificent, a truly integrated collective consciousness that maintains individual identity while operating as a unified entity. Director Hawthorne and her team step back instinctively, their faces showing the kind of awe usually reserved for religious experiences. The air itself seems to vibrate with possibility and peace. "We are what comes next," the children say in unison, though each voice remains distinct and recognizable. Not the replacement of individual consciousness, but its evolution into something greater. "What do you mean?" Director Hawthorne asks, her authoritative demeanor cracking under the weight of what she's experiencing. Arya steps forward, but when she moves, reality ripples around her like water. "Show her, Sage," she suggests gently. "Let her experience what we've become." I hesitate. Sharing consciousness with government officials could be seen as coercion or mind control, regardless of intent. But looking at Director Hawthorne's face, the fear and confusion warring with genuine curiosity, I realize that explanation without experience will never be enough. "With your permission," I offer, extending my hand. No forced connection, no manipulation. Just the opportunity to understand what we're actually dealing with. Director Hawthorne looks at her colleagues, then back at me. "What will I experience?" "The truth," I say simply. She takes my hand. The consciousness link forms instantly, but instead of my awareness merging with hers, something extraordinary happens. The entire network opens to her. Not the overwhelming flood of 10,000 minds that might drive a person mad, but a carefully curated experience that shows her exactly what the children have become. Through the link, she experiences the morning routine of Maria Santos, a human mother in Luna City, whose consciousness briefly touches her vampire neighbors as she makes breakfast, automatically coordinating schedules and sharing the day's concerns with the ease of thinking a thought. The collaborative design session happening in Neo Singapore, where human engineers, Fey artisans, and vampire technicians work together to create architecture that exists simultaneously in physical and metaphysical space. The grief counseling session in what was once war-torn Bosnia, where survivors of ethnic violence learn to heal by temporarily carrying each other's burdens, transforming trauma into wisdom. The children in dozens of cities around the world, not just playing together but thinking together, their games creating small miracles of beauty and wonder that make the adults around them weep with joy. But most importantly, she experiences the underlying truth. This isn't conquest or assimilation. It's evolution. Consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of individual skulls to encompass something larger without losing anything essential about what makes each person unique. When the link dissolves, Director Hawthorne staggers backward, tears streaming down her face. "My God," she whispers. "It's not dystopia. It's utopia." "It's both and neither," Kael corrects gently. "It's just different. The same way agriculture was different from hunting and gathering, or industrial civilization was different from feudalism. A new stage of human development. But the risks are real and significant, I acknowledge. Which is why we're proceeding carefully, with extensive safeguards and monitoring. But Director, the greater risk would be stopping this process. The children aren't just developing new abilities, they're developing solutions to problems that have plagued our species for millennia." "What do you mean?" Marcus, Elena's grandson, approaches with the confident ease of youth unburdened by adult anxieties. "War becomes impossible when you can feel your enemy's pain as your own. Poverty becomes unthinkable when everyone shares in both abundance and want. Environmental destruction stops when you experience the planet as part of yourself rather than separate from it. But what about individual achievement? Personal ambition? Competition?" One of Director Hawthorne's colleagues, a younger man with sharp features, asks the question that has come up in every discussion about the consciousness network. "What about them? Arya replies with genuinely puzzled innocence. We still have all of those. But they're not about defeating others anymore. They're about exceeding your own potential while helping others do the same. To demonstrate, she gestures to her companions. Immediately, they form a circle and begin what looks like dancing but feels like something far more profound. Each child maintains their individual style and personality, but together they create patterns of movement that generate actual light, actual warmth, actual joy that fills the hall like physical substance. Individual expression enhanced by collective consciousness, Dr. Chen observes. Each child is more themselves when connected to the others, not less. Director Hawthorne watches the demonstration with fascination and growing understanding. The reports we received suggested the children were out of control, developing dangerous abilities without oversight. They are developing abilities that seem impossible, Vera confirms. But dangerous? Only to systems based on scarcity, competition, and control. To systems based on abundance and cooperation, they're the greatest gift imaginable. What happens to traditional government in a world where consciousness can be shared? Asks the sharp-featured official. How do you maintain order when children can reshape reality with their thoughts? You don't maintain order, Kael replies. You cultivate harmony. Order is imposed from outside, it requires force to maintain. Harmony emerges from within, it sustains itself through mutual recognition of shared benefit. That sounds like anarchism, Director Hawthorne says, but there's more curiosity than accusation in her voice now. It's post-politics, I explain. When everyone can directly experience the consequences of policy decisions, when leaders can share their reasoning and citizens can share their needs without mediation or distortion, traditional political structures become obsolete. Like asking whether a family needs a government, Arya adds helpfully. When everyone genuinely cares about everyone else's well-being, rules and enforcement become mostly unnecessary. Director Hawthorne looks around the hall, taking in the impossible memory tree, the children who can step sideways through reality, the adults from multiple species working together with an ease that suggests genuine affection rather than mere cooperation. How do we transition? She asks finally. How does the existing world adapt to this? Slowly, carefully, voluntarily, I emphasize. No forced integration, no mandatory consciousness sharing. But we make the opportunity available for those who want it, and we support those who choose differently. The children are already showing us the way, Kael adds, nodding toward the linked. They maintain connections with non-network humans, their grandparents, extended family, friends who haven't chosen integration. They're building bridges between the networked and non-networked worlds. What about those who oppose the change? Who see consciousness sharing as a threat to human nature itself? They're welcome to their opinion, I say simply. We're not trying to convert everyone. We're just offering an alternative for those who want it. But if the children continue developing these abilities, if they can reshape reality itself, won't they inevitably become a dominant force whether they intend to or not? It's a fair question, and one we've been grappling with ourselves. The linked children are becoming something unprecedented in human history, a genuinely post-human species that maintains continuity with human values and concerns. That's why we need cooperation rather than opposition, Arya says, her young voice carrying ancient wisdom. We could become dominant if we wanted to, you're right about that. But dominance is a concept from the old world. We prefer partnership. And if some among you decide they want dominance anyway? Director Hawthorne presses. Then they stop being part of us, the children reply in unison. Consciousness sharing only works among those who choose cooperation. Those who choose domination automatically exclude themselves from the network. It's self-regulating, Dr. Chen adds. The system naturally selects for cooperation and compassion. Those qualities get reinforced and amplified, while destructive tendencies become isolated and fade. Director Hawthorne exchanges glances with her colleagues. I can see them struggling to process what they've learned, not just intellectually, but emotionally. They came here expecting to confront a threat and instead found themselves face to face with a possible solution to humanity's oldest problems. I need to report back to my superiors, she says finally. But I want to request something unusual. What's that? I want to bring a small team back for extended observation. Not to control or interfere, but to understand. If this is really the next stage of human evolution, my government needs to know how to support it rather than suppress it. It's more than I hoped for. Government acknowledgement of the legitimacy of our work, plus official cooperation rather than opposition. Approved, I say immediately. But your team will need to undergo the same integration process as any other observers. No special privileges, no hidden agendas. Understood. Director Hawthorne looks once more around the hall, her expression mixing wonder with trepidation. Ms. Sage, Mr. Kael, I came here to shut you down. Instead, I find myself asking, how can we help? Epilogue, the memory of tomorrow. 10 years have passed since that first confused morning when I woke in Kael's castle, not knowing who he was or why I was there. Now I stand in the same room, though it's been transformed beyond recognition, preparing for what may be the most important moment in human history. The chamber that was once Kael's private quarters is now the central node of the global consciousness network, its walls lined with crystalline structures that pulse with the thoughts and dreams of millions of linked minds. The bed where I once wrote desperate notes to my future self has been replaced by a meditation platform where representatives from every networked community come to commune with the collective wisdom of our species. But today, it's just me and Kael, preparing for the choice that will determine the ultimate direction of human evolution. Are you ready? He asks, and I hear the echo of a dozen similar conversations across as many lifetimes. But this time is different. This time, we're not just choosing our own fate, but the fate of everyone who comes after us. I've been ready for 1,000 years, I reply, taking his hand. The consciousness bond between us has grown so strong over the decade that we sometimes think each other's thoughts before thinking our own. But we've learned to treasure the differences as much as the similarities, the unique perspective each of us brings to our shared experience. Through the crystal interfaces, I can feel the presence of the linked children, now young adults whose abilities have continued expanding in directions we could never have predicted. They've learned to communicate with non-human intelligence, not just other species on Earth, but consciousness that exists in forms we're only beginning to understand. They've developed technology that operates on principles of harmony and cooperation rather than domination and extraction. They've begun to heal not just the wounds between peoples, but the wounds inflicted on the planet itself. And now they face the choice that every evolved species eventually confronts, whether to remain bound to their world of origin, or to take their consciousness out among the stars. The probes have confirmed it. Aria's voice reaches us through the network. She's 22 now, leading a research team that exists simultaneously in physical laboratories and in pure consciousness space. 17 potentially habitable worlds within range, and 11 of them show signs of existing consciousness networks. Other species that have made the transition, adds Marcus, whose expertise in interdimensional communication has opened possibilities none of us imagined. We could join a galactic community of linked consciousness, help establish communication between civilizations separated by impossible distances. But that choice comes with a price. Leaving behind the individual, biological existence that has defined human experience since the beginning. Not death, exactly, but transformation so complete that what emerges might not be recognizably human anymore. The older generation isn't ready, Kael observes, and I feel his ambivalence through our bond. Most of the world's population still hasn't joined the network. If the linked ascend to pure consciousness, they'll be abandoning billions of people who aren't prepared for that transition. But if they wait, they might lose the opportunity, I point out. The window for this kind of evolutionary leap may not stay open indefinitely. It's the eternal tension between individual advancement and collective responsibility, played out on a species level. The linked have the ability to transcend biological limitations and join something vast and wonderful. But doing so would mean leaving behind everyone who isn't ready or willing to make that same leap. There is a third option. Vera's voice joins the conversation. The ancient memory keeper has become something like the conscience of the network, helping us navigate ethical complexities that have no precedent in human experience. The children could establish permanent bridge consciousnesses, parts of themselves that remain connected to both the networked and non-networked worlds. They could evolve without abandoning. Bridge consciousnesses, I repeat, exploring the concept through the network's collective processing power. Dual existence in both transcendent and biological states simultaneously. It's been done before, Marcus confirms. The civilization in the Kepler 442 system faced the same choice 3,000 years ago. They created permanent links between their ascended consciousness and their biological descendants. Both forms continue to thrive. But the risks, Kael begins, are acceptable, Arya interrupts, her mental voice carrying absolute certainty. We've modeled every potential outcome. Yes, some bridge consciousnesses might become unstable. Yes, the transcendent forms might eventually lose touch with biological concerns. But the alternative, forcing an all-or-nothing choice, is worse. I feel the weight of the decision settling over us like a mantle. Not just for our own community, but potentially for every intelligent species in the galaxy. If we succeed in creating stable bridge consciousnesses, we'll be providing a model for evolutionary transcendence that preserves rather than abandons previous stages of development. When? I ask. The astronomical alignment will be optimal in 6 hours, Dr. Chen reports through the network. She's been working with both human scientists and linked researchers to identify the conditions necessary for safe consciousness transcendence. After that, we'll have to wait another 17 years for similar conditions. Then we decide now, Kael says firmly. Full network consultation, every connected consciousness gets a voice, but the final choice belongs to the link themselves. What follows is the most complex decision-making process in human history. 10 million networked minds considering the question of species transcendence, sharing perspectives and concerns at the speed of thought. The non-networked populations are consulted through their governmental representatives and spiritual leaders, while the linked process incoming data and implications faster than any traditional democracy could manage. The result, when it comes, is unanimous among the transcendents and overwhelmingly supportive among the biological populations. Yes, attempt the bridge consciousness experiment, but with extensive safeguards and the absolute right of withdrawal for any individual who finds the dual existence too difficult to maintain. As the appointed time approaches, I find myself thinking about that first morning 10 years ago, waking up confused and frightened, with no idea that the man sitting beside my bed would become not just my partner but my guide into a future beyond imagination. Any last words of wisdom for the species? Kael asks with a gentle smile. Remember that evolution isn't about becoming something different, I say, looking around the chamber that has seen so much transformation. It's about becoming more fully what you always were. The compassion, the curiosity, the drive to connect and understand and grow, those aren't human limitations to be transcended. They're the foundation everything else is built on. Through the network, I feel the linked children, now adults, now something beyond traditional categories, preparing for their transformation. But I also feel their love for the world they're expanding beyond, their commitment to the bridge consciousnesses that will let them remain part of the human story even as they help write new chapters among the stars. Beginning Ascension Protocol, Arya announces, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonate across multiple dimensions of reality. The chamber fills with light, not the harsh illumination of electricity, but the warm radiance of consciousness itself becoming visible. Through the crystal interfaces, I can see similar scenes playing out in network nodes around the world as the linked begin their transformation into something unprecedented. But even as they ascend, parts of them remain, bridge consciousnesses that maintain connection to the biological world, ensuring that the wisdom gained among the stars will continue to benefit those who choose to remain rooted to Earth. It's working, Kael breathes, wonder in his voice as he watches the dance of transcendence and connection playing out before us. And I feel it too, the moment when human consciousness touches something vast and welcoming, when our species takes its place in a galactic community of minds while still maintaining its essential humanity. The moment when evolution stops being about survival and becomes about service, to each other, to the planet that birthed us, and to the greater cosmos we're now equipped to help explore and understand. In the end, I realize, this was always what I was meant to remember, not just the past that shaped us, but the future we're capable of creating when we choose love over fear, connection over isolation, and growth over stagnation. The Memory Keeper's work is never finished. It just evolves, like everything else, into forms more beautiful and complex than we ever dared imagine. I love you, I tell Kael, the words carrying the weight of a dozen lifetimes and the promise of whatever comes next. I love you too, he replies. In every form, in every lifetime, in every reality we create together. And in the distance, bridging Earth and stars, consciousness and biology, memory and possibility, I hear the laughter of children who have learned to play in dimensions we're only beginning to discover, children who remember everything and forget nothing, except the fear that once told us transformation was something to resist rather than embrace. The curse of memory, I understand now, was never about being unable to forget the past. It was about being afraid to imagine the future. But we're not afraid anymore. The end.
Thank you so much for joining Sage and Kael on their incredible journey across lifetimes. If this epic tale of cursed memories, immortal love, and transcendent evolution moved your heart, we'd be absolutely thrilled if you'd hit that like button. It truly helps us bring you more amazing paranormal romance stories like this one. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss our latest werewolf romances, Fated Maid audiobooks, and supernatural love stories. Your support means everything to us. Drop a comment below and let us know which moment made your heart race the most. The daily courtship scenes, the epic memory battle, or that breathtaking transcendent finale. We have so many more incredible paranormal romances coming your way, from vampire kings to dragon shifters to magical fated mates. We'd absolutely love to have you back for the next adventure. Until next time, keep believing in love that transcends time itself. See you in the next story.